Welcome to my shop. My name is Guy, and this time I'm going to be making this walnut media console. A couple cool things about this. This is all shop sawn veneer over plywood. Another really cool thing is that I put this together using ready to assemble or knockdown furniture connectors. Nice thing there is that you can flat pack this and ship it off across the country, or easily load it into a vehicle and take it to the job site or the customers and assemble it there. Let's get to work. Well, after I joined that other edge, I took all the tape off, and I'm going to be slip matching these. So I'll take this one off the top and then just move them forward like this. And that's how the top's going to look. So I need to tape up these seams. I'm just going to use blue tape. So I'm just going to get those together like that. Take a piece of tape. Put it here and stretch it across. Like that. I was going to put one of those about every 6-8 inches going up the seam, and then one across. Well, I've got all this taped up. Let me flip it over, get a better idea what the top is going to look like. Now this is the face that's going to get glued to the plywood substrate, and this is the show face. But I need to make another panel for the bottom of this, top and bottom panel for the bottom piece, the sides, and also 2 dividers. Now this is one of the pieces of substrates I'm going to be using for the veneered panels, and it's 18mm plywood. I've taken some walnut here and milled it to the same thickness as the plywood. I'm going to cut some 1.5-inch strips off of here, and what I need to do is I'm going to be gluing those to the front edge of these, because after I veneer the panels I want to undercut a 45°. You'll see later. Well, this is one of the strips out of that walnut, and this is one of the shorter panels here. And this is just going to get glued onto the edge like this. When I put the veneer on it, it's actually going to overlay on top of this, which is going to look real nice on the front edge. Well, I've sanded the panels with 80 grit sandpaper to give the panels some tooth for the veneer. And I've got it on a caul, the bottom piece anyways, which is 1/8-inch hardboard that I've covered with wax, so no glue sticks to it. And I'm just going to spread some glue on here with the roller and attach the veneer. Now that I have a good coating of glue on there, I'm just going to take one of the veneered panels and lay it on here. I'm going to move it around a little bit, make sure I get good glue coverage. Once I have that in place, I'm going to be careful here and flip it over. And then get the other side. With that all done, I'm going to put the second caul on here, which goes over the top like this. I'm going to take this whole thing over to the vacuum bag. Well, the vacuum pump has evacuated all the air out of the bag. Actually, it's at 25 inches of mercury. At my elevation, that means about 12 pounds per square inch, and based on the size of this, that's a little bit more than 5,000 pounds of pressure being put on those veneers on the substrate. So I'm going to leave this in the bag for about 45 minutes and then take it out. This really looks good. I need to get the tape off, and I need to get the other 3 panels done. All the panels are complete now, and I just need to clean up this front edge. So I'm just going to run it through the table saw and take about 1/8 of an inch off the front of this piece. This edge cleaned up, you can see how well that really hides the veneer and how nice that edge looks. Well, I have the top here and one of the sides, and I really want this grain to flow through the sides to the top when you look at it from the side. So I gave myself a little bit extra wiggle room on this, actually about 1 inch. So I should have plenty there, but what I want to do is I'm going to line up the grain pattern between these two as close as I can get it. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty darn close. Now that I have that lined up, I just need to measure from here to here and then cut this front edge off. Now with the left side done, I can cut all the pieces down to a final finished width of 21 inches. Well, I've got all the panels sized down to their final width. Now I need to get them to the final length. The top and bottom need to be 60 inches. So I'm going to take a ½ inch off of each side. I want to leave as much of the grain here because I want to make sure that I can fold over the sides to get an even match. Well, it's time to cut the sides to final length, and I just want to trim off as little as possible so I get a nice clean edge here, and then I'll flip it around and then cut it to the final length of 20 inches. Now all the case construction is going to be joined together at the edges with miters, so it's kind of, you know, the waterfall thing with the grain. I don't like to do this table saw, I like to do it the router table. These panels are a little over 13/16 of an inch thick. So I have a special router bit, a chamfer bit, that will do up to 1 1/8 inch thick. I'm going to put this in the router table and we'll get to making those corners. Well, I've got the bit installed and I don't have it at the full height yet. I'm going to start with a big pass and then take off slowly until I just kiss this outside edge. And while I still have my chamfering bit in the router table, I want to make this under bevel. This is the inside of the cabinet, this is the top. It's about a 3/16 fillet on the front here. And now that I've got that dialed in, I'm just going to go to the router table and run the rest of the pieces. I'm ready to start the joinery, and for it I'm going to be using a knockdown connector. And I'm going to be using this. This is a Lamello Zeta P2. This looks like a biscuit joiner, but it's not. What it does is it plunges and then the blade actually goes up and down like this and creates these grooves. And these just simply slide in like that. After I've got those pieces in here, I'll butt them up together, and then there's a cam lock which coincides with the groove here, and that locks everything together. Well, I have the outside case together. It took me about maybe 5 minutes to do. No glue, just cranking those cams down. Now these are some panels that are going to be the vertical dividers and the shelves that go across. I've veneered these like I did before, and I've put some edge banding on the front. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them to the depth and then cut them to the final length. Now that I have the case together, I want to take a measurement between these two uprights here, about in the middle, because I'm going to take another shelf and it's going to be fixed, and it's going to actually slide in on some different connectors. With this middle shelf in, now I have to start working on the holes here that I'm going to use for adjustable shelves on both the left and right side of the cabinet. So I'm going to have to take this apart. I have two pieces of roof sawn walnut here. I'm going to get the legs out of this piece and the rails and the supports out of this piece. This has been planed to 7/8 of an inch thick, and I'm going to make the feet first. Now these Festool connectors work differently than Lamellos. There's 5 different pieces I have to put into here, and the first is this anchor that goes in here. Then I need to drop this cam lock that goes in here. And then there's a retainer clip for that goes in here. Then I can take this pin and screw it in. Now there's this little locking nut that goes inside the clip I put in here before. Now with all that in place, this just drops on top there like this, and then just lock it down. This is the material I'm making the door frames out of. It's quarter sawn walnut, just like the rest of the piece. And this was a single board that I resawed down the middle and thickness planed to the same width as the channel. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rip off the stiles from each end, and that's going to be 1 1/4 inches, and then I'm going to get the rails out, and that'll be 1 5/8 inches. Well, I've glued up the panels and I've got them on my assembly table here where they'll stay for the next day till it dries. Now I wanted to put them on here because I wanted to make sure that these panels are absolutely dead flat so that they fit in the channels nice and won't bind later. The very last thing I need to do for this piece is make the back. Now I veneered this piece off camera. It's quarter sawn veneer on both sides and it's 1/4 inch plywood. I just need to cut it to width and to length. I've got all the cutouts in the back, and what these are real quick is there's going to be an adjustable shelf here. It's going to have components down here and up here. I want to be able to get the wiring in there. I've also made this cutout here to give a little bit extra space for the heat from the receiver that's going to be here to escape from the top. This right here is on the center shelf, there's going to be a center channel speaker. I'll be able to get the wiring back into that speaker. Now that the piece is pretty much complete, I need to disassemble everything, take all the fasteners out of it, and do the finish prep on it, and then I'll get to the finishing. I end up putting 4 coats of the armor seal on here, and I've got a real nice satin sheen. I need to go ahead and start reinstalling all the fasteners that hold the piece together.